Doctor, we thank you so much for accepting to chair this program. We'll now call on Abu Jinapo.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my task this evening is a very simple one. My task is to introduce the man that all of us in this country, young and old, men and women, across board, know, lived with, experienced, and can attest to. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the presidential candidate who's been speaking to almost every issue which confronts the Ghanaian life. He's spoken about education, he's spoken about corruption, he's spoken about healthcare, he's spoken about housing, and tonight he's going to speak about an issue which he's very passionate about, industrialization. He calls it industrial revolution in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, this man, many of us know him to be a fighter for human rights, a fighter for democratic dispensation in our country. But I'm privileged and honored to inform the Ghanaian people that in the early 90s, he's the man who had the vision to introduce the mobile telecommunication industry in our country. Today, arguably, is the biggest industry in Ghana. He's the man who introduced DHL, and indeed, he's a businessman par excellence. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, by the grace of God and with your support, the next president of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo, Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Our regional chairman, former national chairman, members of the national executive, honorable members of parliament, ladies and gentlemen and friends, good evening. And I'm very happy for this opportunity to speak about industrialization, a subject that is fundamental to the MPP plans to transform the economy of Ghana, and to do so most appropriately here in Takwa, one of the first mining industrial towns of our country. At this time of the election campaign, those of us seeking the mandate of the people to manage the affairs of our nation have a responsibility to spell out our plans to help the people make informed decisions on December the 7th. The MPP has been consistent in its message about the need to transform the economy and to do so through industrialization. Luckily for me, I feel this message, like the free SHS message, has found resonance with the people, and so there will not be the need to explain why we need to industrialize. This evening, I intend to talk about how we aim to achieve the goal of industrialization. Yesterday, in Accra, I went to the offices of the Association of Ghana Industries, the AGI, to have a conversation with members about what they want and expect of government and the role they could play in helping Ghana become a truly industrialized nation. As we sat in their council room, I looked around at the list of the former presidents of the AGI, and my eyes rested on the very first president of this august grouping, the late Mrs. Esther Oklu. Her story, which she herself used to tell with such good humor, is certainly worth recalling. And I believe that story still has lessons for us today. It was back in 1942 that Dr. Esther Oklu, at that time Esther Nkulenu, made her first few jars of marmalade. She had completed Achimota College and had been unable to find a job. Having picked up marmalade making skills at Achimota, she used her pocket money to buy oranges, sugar, and firewood, and immediately made 100% markup on her marmalade. The rest, as the saying goes, is history. And Esther Oklu's 12 jam jars turned into the internationally acclaimed Nkulenu Industries, constant companion of boarding school students as producer of marmalade, orange squash, palm concentrate, aubergines, and even palm wine. I like the Nkulenu story because she exemplifies the entrepreneurial spirit in the Ghanaian, and is a classic case of how other nations started on the road to industrialization, food processing, and adding value to raw materials that are easily found around them. It is probably worth pointing out another poignant part of the story as well. She had left Achimota College. At the time, it was the highest level of education you could get in Ghana, and she could not find a job. A young girl finishes school and can't find a job has a familiar ring to it in our present-day Ghana. 70 years after that leap of faith, however, it is sad that there aren't many more Esther Oklus and Nkulenu Industries. Some would say her business should be a large-scale enterprise by now, but nothing can take her pioneering status from her. And I would like to say that even if Nkulenu Industries has remained a cottage industry throughout the years, there's still a lot to learn from that. The leather industry in Italy, for instance, a multi-billion-dollar industry that makes world-famous shoes, bags, belts, and other leather products, is run very much along the lines of a cottage industry by many families. There are still vast opportunities for the emergence of many more Nkulenus in the processing of our foods, so that cooking does not remain such a time-consuming drudgery in Ghana. But whether it is on a small scale or a large scale, industrialization can only be successful when the necessary infrastructure is available to make our production processes and the products competitive. Industrialization can only be successful if we have a workforce that is educated and skilled and can compete on the global market. I look at your university here, the University of Mines and Technology, TAQUA, sited in the heart of the mining industry, and it is just the type of institution we need to train the manpower to transform our economy. This is an institution established back in 1952 as the TAQUA Technical Institute. In 1961, it became the TAQUA School of Mines, with a mandate to train the required manpower for the mining and allied industries in Ghana. Later, in 1976, the TAQUA School of Mines was affiliated to the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology as a faculty of the university. In 2001, it became the Western University College of KNUST. Finally, in November 2004, In the Kufuor NPP era, the University of Mines and Technology, UMAT, was established to provide higher education in mining, technology, and related sciences, and to act as a catalyst for the development of mining and technology. Despite the change in names and centers of authority over the years, the core mandate has not changed. There are very few countries in the world with universities dedicated to mining and allied industries. UMAT puts Ghana, a country rich in minerals, in a strategic position to be a world leader in mining and its allied industries. The last MPP government started on a vigorous upgrading and expansion of facilities in this university. And I believe that if this is continued, equipment for all aspects of mining, from prospecting to refining of materials, can be designed and prototypes produced here. Students with the necessary motivation and entrepreneurial skills will also be assisted to form incubator companies during their training so they can be self-employed when they leave the walls of the university. Mining has been an integral part of our economy for hundreds of years, but Ghanaians have never really controlled the business. When voted into power, I will see to it that the universities fulfill its mandate so that in the not too distant future, Ghana will be self-sufficient as far as mining technology is concerned, and that Ghana will get, at long last, full value from its mineral wealth. This, of course, will be of interest to the growing army of young people that are involved in small-scale mining around the country. I cannot and should not avoid the subject of galamsey at this stage. My government will find a way to regularize small-scale mining, including galamsey, to make it safer and better for the environment. But to do that, this university has to assist in designing the machinery that will make this type of mining safe for both miners and the environment. Mr. Chairman, I've spoken about the exploits of one woman in establishing a food processing industry. And I've also spoken about an institution that can and is producing the workforce that can transform one particularly important industry, mining. And it leads me to the critical role of government in creating the enabling atmosphere and providing the infrastructure to make industrialization possible. The availability of reasonably priced and reliable power ranks very high on the must-have list. The energy deficit is a great drawback to our development, and it has to be resolved. The last MPP government made great strides in increasing the energy capacity of the nation. We added a total of 560 megawatts to the national grid. These include 1, VRA plant at Tema, funded by government, 110 megawatts. 2, Mines Reserve Plant Tema, funded by mine companies with government support, 80 megawatts. 3, VRA Athol Plant Tema, government support, 50 megawatts. Emergency Plant Tema, funded by government, 120 megawatts. 5, Asogli Power Plant Tema, funded by a private sector with government support, 200 megawatts, making a total of 560 megawatts. It is probably worth mentioning here the energy project started by the NPP and not completed before we left office. Bui Hydroelectric Dam at Bui, 400 megawatts. Up to Abuaze Thermal Plant, T3 Takrady, 136 megawatts. Osono Thermal Plant at Tema, 120 megawatts. And the Bong Thermal Plant, 220 megawatts, making a total of 876 megawatts. And Akufo-Addo government, God willing, will tackle the power problem to save industry from the insecurity and extra costs that come from frequent power outages. We are determined to increase generation from the current 2,400 megawatts to 5,000 megawatts within the 4-year term of office. We will ensure a strategic generation reserve requirement of a minimum of 18% to ensure stable power supply to our industries. We will review and consolidate the governance and power regulatory regime to ensure consistency and fairness in pricing. We cannot hope to industrialize with the current state of water supplies in the country. We will implement a strengthened national water policy which will greatly improve supply, hygiene, and sanitation. Our goal is to ensure that every Ghanaian has access to potable water and industry gets the water needed to function. We'll continue the program of the Kufuor government, which undertook major water systems improvements nationwide, including Cape Coast, Mankasim, Kufuridua, Kumasi, Kwenyako, Adar, Sogankope, the Accra East-West Interconnection, and Tamale. We will additionally construct more dams along our major waterways and build a third water treatment plant in the lower basin. We'll ensure the water sector gets the investment it needs by dramatically cutting down on non-revenue water losses and empowering the PURC and the CWSA to oversee effectively the water delivery system in the country to ensure Ghanaians get value for money. Chairman, we have made great strides in telecommunications in the past decade, and this has transformed communications in the country. But we still have a long way to go with the state of our roads, railways, ports, harbors, and airports. We must open up our country and make movement around the country less stressful and cumbersome if our industries are to prosper. Ever since Governor Godgesberg left our shores in 1928, Ghana's economy has remained structurally rigid, depending largely on exports of primary commodities such as gold, cocoa, bauxite, and timber. 1928, 70% of our foreign exchange earnings were from gold, cocoa, and timber. In 2007, about 65% of our earnings were from these same three products. In 2009, cocoa and gold exports accounted for 4.5 billion United States dollars, or 78% of total exports. Provisional data for the past year indicate that cocoa and gold exports alone accounted for $6 billion US, or 67 or 76% of Ghana's total exports. In 2011, we hit the magic number of 1 million metric tons of cocoa production, which was the target set by the Akufo government. This was also the year that the target for having 50% of our cocoa processed locally was set. Sadly, my information is that this target for added value has been missed. It's not surprising in the context of NDC rule in our country. Being touted as a leading producer of cocoa, raw gold, raw manganese, and timber has done nothing to address the concerns of the hundreds of thousands of young men and women who do not have jobs. Even though the significant expansion of the economy over the last decade has brought about a higher average per capita income, it is still limited in its capacity to generate decent jobs with decent pay for our youth. An expanded economy should not mean having a wider variety of cheap imported goods to sell on our streets. An expanded economy should mean an industrializing economy that is adding value to its raw materials. During the 8 years of the NPP being in government, thanks to the focused leadership of J.A. Akufo, Ghana eventually discovered oil in commercial quantities in 2007. The discovery is offshore here in the Western region, and your towns and cities are beginning to feel the impact in terms of an influx of people and higher rents. There's an immigration desk at the small aerodrome in Takoradi, and you only need to see the numbers of foreign arrivals to accept that we have indeed become an oil economy. We have two options about what to do with the oil. One, to treat the oil like we have done to gold and allow it to be exported in its raw form as crude. Or two, use this as a perfect opportunity to transform the structure of our economy through industrialization and value-added commercial activities. I believe we should use our oil revenues to create assets, not waste it on consumption and accumulate debt simply because people will lend us money now that we have oil. Our oil fields provide us with the perfect opportunity to create a petrochemical industry in Ghana. We will facilitate the setting up of a multi-billion-dollar gas feedstock industrial estate in the Nzema area, producing methanol, ammonia, urea, and natural gas liquids, which hopefully will feed from the oil and gas industry in both Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. We also intend to convert our petrochemicals into hundreds of industrial and consumer products produced right here in Ghana, including plastics, paints, rubber, fertilizers, detergents, dyes, textiles, solvents, and hopefully bitumen for road construction. From the petroleum, we can get the preservatives to can food produced in Ghana, and we can get plastics in which to preserve the processed food. The synthetic byproduct from petroleum can serve as raw material for the manufacturing of different types of garment and footwear. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Ghanaians, unless we add significant value to our primary products, be they heavy or otherwise, we cannot create the necessary numbers of high-paying jobs that will enhance the living standards of the mass of our people. Raw material producing economies do not create prosperity for the masses. The way to that goal, the goal of ensuring access to prosperity, is value addition activities in a transformed and a diversified modern economy. In other words, the industrial development of our economy. The Akufo-Addo presidency will focus on leveraging our basic sources of comparative advantage, namely relatively inexpensive labor and natural resources from agriculture and mining, especially the emerging oil gas sector, to develop a value-added industrial sector that is globally competitive. We also have the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to make Ghana a regional center for light manufacturing industry for a market of some 350 million, projected to reach 500 million by 2030. By weaving together our numerous natural resources like food produce, bauxite, iron ore, oil and gas, with our talents and energy to turn our nation into an economic powerhouse in Africa, generating full employment for our teeming youth. Mr. Chairman, I believe Ghana should be at the forefront of the industrialization of West Africa. Ghana's bauxite deposits carry a potential value of some 350 billion United States dollars, far in excess of what we expect to reap from crude oil. The Akufo-Addo government will seek private investment to add value to our bauxite by building an integrated aluminum industry and export manufactured aluminum products, as was envisaged by the Kufuor government. We will add value to our iron ore and build a new iron and steel industry. Our salt will be part of this new vision. I want to see a West Africa that is working together to create jobs for its people and providing decent lives for its population. And I want to see Ghana being in the driving seat of that regional project. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, the contribution of Ghana's manufacturing industry is small and getting even smaller under this NDC government. In 2008, the last year of the Kufuor era, it was a meager 7.9%, and last year it had gone down to 6.7%. A bad situation is being aggravated by bad policies. Let us take the pharmaceutical industry, for example. Up until recently, we were doing quite well in the sector. Now our pharmaceutical companies are struggling with this introduction of measures that are counterproductive to the growth of the local industry. With facility audit fees, for example, going up from $7,000 in 2008 to $15,000 today. At the same time, the Food and Drugs Board, the regulatory body, has seen its share of the national budget decreasing in real terms. Is it any wonder, therefore, that our pharmaceutical companies are under pressure from cheap foreign imports? The purchasing power of government, the purchasing power of the National Health Insurance Authority must be used to support our pharmaceutical companies. And then the Akufo-Addo government will certainly make this happen. We can position our pharmaceutical industry to be a major player in the sector, not only in West Africa, but also on the entire African continent. It could be a very lucrative sector, generating lots of revenues and jobs for our people. After nearly 20 years, Mr. Chairman, of a stable and free democratic society with a market economy, resources-rich Ghana today has the best opportunity since independence to undertake a deliberate and meaningful transformation of our economic structure. As the experiences of the successful countries in Asia and elsewhere have shown, government has a very important and positive role to play in spurring industrialization and economic transformation. An MPP government will establish industrial parks in every region, and we shall focus on building an integrated industrialization program with a clear bias towards supporting small and medium-scale enterprises with access to science and technology, incentives and markets to make them more productive and competitive. We will introduce programs that will boost the agricultural sector and introduce incentives that will encourage our banks to provide affordable credit and other financial services to SMEs and launch a new wave of small and viable industries across the length and breadth of Ghana. Government's business is to ensure that businesses are up and running and have access to the capital that will keep the wheels of industry moving. These are simple beliefs, but with profound implications. A first-class public sector will provide the backbone for Ghana's transformation. Mr. Chairman, the NPP will focus on pursuing a public sector model that responds to the needs of its citizens. We need a public service that frowns upon the culture of corruption and provides the people with a quality environment of law and order, physical infrastructure, social services, sensitivity, and quick responsiveness to needs, in a regulatory environment that allows free and fair competition. We have the human capital right here to make it happen. Those young people I met today here in Takwa, their colleagues at Swami in Kumasi, and similar sites around the country demonstrate the vast intellectual property that is at our disposal. We will invest heavily in building up the most important ingredient for development, the intellectual property of the people, the mind. Education and skills training are the key to success. The challenge for Ghana is that we have not attracted as much foreign investment as we could have. Our dealings with foreign investors have not been as sure-footed as they could have been, and this has led to the many foreign-led, highly publicized projects that have not seen the light of day. There is a large proliferation of agencies and departments that local industries and would-be foreign investors have to deal with. Maybe it is time we consolidated some of them. When Japan needed to, back in 1949, when it was reeling from the effects of the war, it created the Ministry of Trade and International Trade and Industry, MITI, which became one of the most powerful agencies in their country. At the height of its influence, it effectively ran much of Japanese industrial policy, funding research and directing investment. MITI was responsible not only in the area of exports and imports, but also for all domestic industries and businesses not specifically covered by other ministries in the areas of investment in plant and equipment, pollution control, energy and power, some aspects of foreign economic assistance and consumer complaints. This span allowed MITI to integrate conflicting policies such as those on pollution control and export competitiveness to minimize damage to export industry. MITI served as an architect of industrial policy, an arbiter on industrial problems and disputes, and a regulator. A major objective of MITI was to strengthen the country's industrial base. It did not manage Japanese trade and industry along the lines of a centrally planned economy, but it provided industries with administrative guidance and other direction, both formal and informal, on modernization, technology, investments in new plants and equipment, and domestic and foreign competition. There was a very close relationship between MITI and Japanese industry, and MITI facilitated the early development of nearly all major industries by providing protection from import competition, technological intelligence, help in licensing foreign technology, access to foreign exchange, and assistance in mergers. In its early years, it was very much a protective agent against foreign competition until Japanese goods were strong enough to compete on the world markets. Admittedly, times have changed, and such pure protectionism may not be feasible today. But MITI still exists in various forms in other emerging markets like Turkey, Brazil, South Africa, and Malaysia, and even neighboring Nigeria, and we can certainly learn a few lessons from them. Even if our own government were to stick to the provisions of the procurement law, our local companies would get some protection, instead of which we get the current situation of sole sourcing in favor of foreign companies. And the Akufo-Addo government will not shy away from favoring local businesses. Our local companies need assured markets at home, and it's from such a base that they will develop and grow into regional and international giants. I, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, believe that the surest way to build a strong industrial base is to develop our own indigenous businesses. And with your votes and God's help, I should do just that. Thank you. God bless you. God bless God.
A few questions. Indeed, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this man, the presidential candidate for MPP, is an indefatigable man. Look at the work he has done. He and his team, from the beginning of this morning to date, and I don't think you can have any other leader in Ghana to lead us into the year 2013. I would have wished that we take some questions, but I think the lecture is clear, par excellence, to use my brother's language. So I would rather entreat you. I don't want to summarize it, but the era of industrial revolution in Ghana is about to start. Come 2013. Nana, would you like to take questions? Yes, I think Nana has given a very good, very excellent this thing. What I told you, we are about to start an industrial revolution in Ghana. All the big countries in the world went through this. In Britain, in America, Germany, Japan, as we have been reminded of. The only thing I would like, that as we are industrializing and expanding our industrial base, we should not forget about the health, safety of the workers who are going to, the human resource, which will facilitate the expansion of our industries. So on this note, I'll take my seat and call our MC to give the vote of thanks. And thank you very much, Nana.
Well, Doctor, thank you. Thank you so much. We'll rather call on Honorable Gifty Kusi to give the vote of thanks. But before that, we'll thank all groups that we invited here. We have the Young Entrepreneurs Club, the Mine Workers Union, all workers from the Mines, Garages Association, the bank staffs, and everybody. We acknowledge your presence. Honorable.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished invited